Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Gwent, and tons of people have been asking me what deck have I been using for the summer cycle quests. So today I'll show you a great list for finishing those quests quickly. So today we'll be playing a standard Skellige Ursine ritual deck designed to maximize rewards from the summer cycle quests. This deck combines Skellige Crimson Curse and Wave the Witcher cards to deal damage, get boosts, play cultists, play humans, play witchers, and even spawn in units, making it very efficient to complete those quests while still being surprisingly competitive. Just don't expect to go pro with this list. I can't work miracles. In round 1, we'll play things like the Bear Witcher Adept, put Svalblod Priest next to those Adepts to get even more points, maybe use Armored Up to get some more targets for your self-damage, Gerd for decent damage if your opponent is going wide while also giving you a tall unit, Bear Witcher Quartermaster for more self-damage and more spawning, and maybe our location for some more Bear Witcher Quartermasters. Then in round 2/3, we break out the big stuff, starting with Svalblod, which has huge base power, but more importantly, does huge damage to the entire board. Now this is one of the few cards in this deck that is not from the Wave the Witcher or Crimson Curse expansion, and therefore actually does not contribute directly toward the summer cycle quests, but is arguably the most important card for making this deck competitive. So if the only thing you care about is completing those quests as efficiently as possible, technically you could swap this out. But if you still want to win some matches, I would keep it. Then we'll play Artis, and with him we'll summon out a Svalblod Fanatic, and for the rest of the round we'll play cards that benefit from receiving damage. So the Fanatic will immediately transform, and any other card that either we or our opponent played will be damaged by half of its power. Then we can play Dagur, one of the other cards here that doesn't contribute that much to the quests, although technically the Thronebreaker expansion is included in some of the quests, but he has a lot of boost potential in this deck, making him one of the most important parts to making this deck more competitive. Then we'll play things like Vildkaarl, which will immediately transform into that Championess Svalblod for a huge point slam, and Arnvald, who can take one of our damaged cards and transform it into a 6-point Bear Abomination, which will probably increase its base power, and if you still have a Svalblod on the board when you do this, then you will activate Svalblod's other ability, once again damaging all of the units on the board. Eventually, from all this self-damage, you'll get out Cerys Fearless, and with her you can heal one of your cards, most likely either Svalblod or Artis, and then damage one of your units by the same amount. So in this case, you're looking to heal a unit that has been damaged a lot, and then damage a unit that's really small. That way you're getting more value from the healing than you are from the damage. Or, if you're precise with it, you could use that damage from Cerys to transform one of those Svalblod Fanatics that Svalblod spawns in into another Bear Abomination, once again triggering the huge damage from Svalblod. We also have Sigvald in the deck, who's a great target to receive that damage from Cerys, because rather than immediately getting destroyed, he'll instead slowly take the damage from bleed. Then with all the damage units on the board, near the end of the round we'll play Arnaghad, and although we don't have his usual pair Sucrus in this deck, because Sucrus is not from Crimson Curse or Wave the Witcher, Arnaghad should get a ton of armor, which especially combined with Artis dealing damage to your opponent's cards, still makes Arnaghad a powerful unit. Then you can use your leader ability on any Svalblod Fanatics that are still on the board, and use Junod to get rid of one of your opponent's high priority cards. So there's a look at the deck, and like I said, it combines Crimson Curse and Wave the Witcher cards to deal damage, get boosts, and even spawn in some units, helping you to complete summer cycle quests efficiently while still being competitive. So to me, these cards strike a good balance between those two goals, but you can of course make modifications if one of those things is more important to you than the other. Now let's go see it in action. Alright, so going up against Scoia'tael here. And they'll go first. Alright, so we have Dagur, who we'd like to save for round 3, but that is a good card. We have Oneiromancy, which helps us get other key cards in round 3. We don't want to see these Fanatics, at least not both of them in our hand, because we want to save one of those for Artis, which is also a round 3 play. Ravager is not great, but we might have to settle for that, because I think we're going to perhaps dump you here. Gerd, that's usable in round 1. Okay, Treant 4 heals, which is annoying, because we probably want to deal damage, although that also does deal damage. And we have stuff that is okay with taking that hit. Bear Witcher Adept, I mean, if we wanted to drop Vildkaarl, we could, and they would not really want to hit that. This is a card we kind of like to save for round 3 for a point slam, although technically it is usable in round 1 if we really wanted to. But I think for now, we probably just keep it simple and begin with the Adept, because it'll heal at the very least if it gets hit here. Okay, but making a bomb, I was going to say, they do technically have other ways of dealing 4 damage. It's not that difficult to do. There are Madoc and Milva Sharpshooter deck. Interesting. So if we can destroy Milva, that'd be great. We can definitely weaken her with armor up, and then we could follow up with Primal Savagery. Don't really know to what extent there. Do this, and probably still find a way to get Milva back into your deck, which would be kind of unfortunate. But you know what? We'll try. We'll give it a shot. Okay, Dragoon, moves that. And lovely. Lovely. Okay. You know, it was ambitious, but they play a bunch of cards that we don't want to hit, and it's kind of hard for us to make that work. So we can get a Svalblod Priest out here. It's not a terrible thing because it's an engine, but this is not exactly been the easiest of round ones here, as we want to deal damage, and they are okay with taking it. Okay, another making a bomb that will actually, not directly, but eventually destroy the Priesto also from Milva as well. Okay, so I mean, we will eventually play cards that are okay with taking damage. We have, to be fair, used some of them already. But if we were to, say, drop a Vildkaarl here, then that might make things considerably more difficult for them. So you know what? I would say that this might be a situation in which we just try to pass and keep round one short. But I think we might still be able to make this work if we are willing to use the Vildkaarl. Now, do they have enough damage to outright destroy him here? They've already used both their making of bombs. They're probably about to play a different bomb. Yep. Oh, they'll banish him. All right. So we'll stop playing this round in that case. Yeah. All right. Frustrating, the matchup. Not much we can do about that, though. All right. Armor up, we might want to dump here because we have established anything that deals damage. It's going to be a little bit tricky because they have a whole bunch of cards that can completely shake off the damage, which absolutely stinks for us. We now have Artis. That's a card we'd like to save for round 3, but it is a big one. And we dump one of those. We don't have either Svalblod Fanatic in hand, so that's good because we want to keep one to combine with Artis. Let's dump you, I think, or even the Cultist. So they did play one more card than us in round 1. That might mean they just use a single throwaway here, or it might mean they try to push 2-0. That's a weird throwaway, but I can't think of any other reason why you would use Brayhen. Speaking of throwaways, let's go Oneiro into, assuming that they aren't about to play anything big. Might not necessarily be a safe assumption, but let's go with our location, because that will give us a bit of carryover. And then if we want this to potentially be the only card that we need to play in this round, then Adept probably makes the most sense, because everyone else kind of requires a little more setup. So was that truthfully the only thing they were going to play in this round? It was. Okay, so we could use a throwaway here, in which case we could do something like Armor Up, which is maybe not a terrible idea. It's not really a card we love having in round 3. Yes, it does get more damage cards on the board, which can help with things like Arnaghad, but that's not a huge deal. So I think we just get rid of you and increase our likelihood of getting something else in round 3. Okay, we draw it back into the Cultist, which can work with Svalblod to help keep him alive. We already have Artis, we already have Dagur, so that's good. Dagur I'm kind of terrified of because they have Guerilla tactics, so they have a very easy counter to him, so I think we basically need to delay Dagur until we already have things like Artis and Svalblod, more importantly, on the board, and then just activate Svalblod immediately, get some boosts on Dagur the same turn we play him, otherwise he's not going to be doing much for us. Gerd is actually not great with Svalblod, so I'm a little concerned about that. Okay, there is one of the Fanatics. We still have one in our deck, right? Okay. Good. That should be fine then. So we do want to get Svalblod and Artis down early. However, there may be some things we want to play first if we have cards that don't really synergize with those. And one of those is Gerd, because he has so much base power that he actually takes a pretty sizable hit from Artis. So we would have preferred to have used him in round 1. Obviously, you would not usually play Gerd on turn 1. Maybe we can still make him work if we delay a little bit and they get some units on the board, but I think we've seen that it's going to be a little bit tough to get good damageable units. Okay, Ivo. Sure. I guess. They did seem to have some Witchers. Okay, so now we'd like to start thinking about Artis and Svalblod. Svalblod has huge base power, so we would rather not get him hit by Artis. In fact, Artis is also row locked, so that's another card they might use the ability charge on. So if we could find a way to bait some of those charges out, that'd be amazing, but I'm not really sure we're going to be able to make that happen. We'll see. Point being, first we definitely want to use Oneiro on Svalblod. And if we hit ourselves a couple more times, we can activate his ability here, but I think we'll have time to do that later. I'm assuming, so I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. Okay, I did put him next to the location for a reason, because he is going to take some damage from his ability, but damage from their deck as well. So this might be a good time to, I mean, this would have been Artis plus the other Fanatic. We will eventually get Cerys out here, but she still needs a little more time unless we use a bunch of lead ability charges now. It's not a terrible idea. I think we might kind of just need to use this immediately. Technically, I suppose we're going to get Svalblod to go off on this play right here, so it might have been better to have waited slightly later in the turn before doing the healing. I'm curious to see if they move Artis, because they can, and he is locked to the range row. But with 4 damage, or 4 power on Svalblod, you'd have to think they have a bomb that could remove him, but do they prioritize that, or do they prioritize Artis? I would think the best play would be remove Svalblod with damage, and then move Artis with leader ability. That is a bit of an odd choice, though. Okay, so, just barely holding on here with Artis, and same with Svalblod. We only need a couple charges before Cerys comes out. She does have Zeal, so we can get her to transform immediately. The thing is that we can only heal one of these guys per turn. So we might need to live with having one live and the other one not so much. So if we had to choose between them, what would we rather have? It might be Svalblod to help facilitate at least getting big boosts on Dagur on the first turn that we play him. Unless we use Cultist to heal somebody as well, which is technically still an option, but not a fantastic one. Alright, we'll go for it though. You'll take some damage. You'll get Cerys out. We'll heal you. Damage you. So now you're back up to full power. You're up to 2 power. I mean, if they want to move Artis, that is the obvious way to get rid of him. Or they could do it like that. Except they didn't do it the way they should have done it. Okay. I mean, yes, they did kind of, sort of, do some things there, but not very useful things. You do have 2 damage, though. Why are you... Okay. Now, going after Cerys is not a terrible idea, but you would think they'd want to go after Artis. So now we can heal Artis by 3 and damage you by 3, which will activate your ability. But I think that means this is a good time for us to get Dagur down. And then, especially because they're now out of leader ability charges. So we have at least baited that out. Not exactly the way that I expected that to happen. You will still take damage, but now we do heal, damage. And that means that Dagur got some boosts. Actually, a little less than I was expecting, though. I mean, we could, depends. Are we willing to sacrifice Cerys right now? If so, we could damage the Svalblod Fanatic and turn it into another Bear Abomination and get some pretty big boosts on Dagur, but maybe we wait a turn. Yeah, that's gonna hit range row. Honestly, these guys are looking pretty healthy at the moment, so that's not a huge concern. Stigga Castle may be a bigger concern. That's gonna be Cat Witcher, one assumes. Yep. Trying to hit range row there as well. They do get rid of, unfortunately, our Cerys, but she kept these 2 alive. And that's honestly all we could really ask for on that occasion. We could destroy you with Junod. That might not look like a huge deal because you're a 2 power card, but since we still have these 2 on the board, most of the cards are going to be pretty low power. So since you are an engine, there's still something to be said for taking you out. Speaking of engines, though, we'd kind of like to get the Svalblod Priest on the board relatively early here. So that might be worth doing. This also immediately activates Svalblod at an additional time. Let's do this. That will activate. Then we put Svalblod Priest here. So that way we have a way to get this Fanatic down to Preserve 2 without needing to use leader ability charges. Just ignore the fact that this Svalblod Priest is blocked by a stratagem that I don't even think either of us used in this match. Okay, Cat Witcher will also get hit. Maybe they realize now that Artis is a pretty big concern. So Artis is going to get destroyed in all likelihood on this turn right now, but at this point, I think it has served its purpose. That probably means we want to play Svalblod Fanatic right now. This will immediately activate Svalblod, but otherwise we would need some other source of damage to convert this. So I think that means this is the time, and it will also get rid of that Cat Witcher, which is nice. It'll also transform you, which means we'll get another round of damage, which will destroy you as well, I think. So that's fine. Okay. And this is why Dagur starts to add up. Because basically everything else is taking huge amounts of damage. But since Dagur gets boosted when they take that damage, he can still hold on. Okay, more Cat Witchers. I mean, you'd expect to see the Gezros right about now. Might hit Svalblod here. They do. Okay, I jinxed it. But at this point, we got pretty solid value out of both Svalblod and Artis, even when our opponents seemingly had some good ways to counter them. So I think we can live with that, and it now means we have a pretty solid lead here. We do have a target for Primal Savagery. That would have been another way to get a Bear Abomination on the board and set off Svalblod an additional time, but this might even need to be... We might have to avoid the death blow instead, just use it to set up Junod. Otherwise, I mean, sure, we can take out that brigade, which is not a huge deal. I'm thinking we also might want to use Quartermaster here to turn that Fanatic into an Abomination, but that has Zeal, so that's not a huge rush. Yeah, I suppose we don't have anything that's a huge rush here in that case. So maybe we'll still do this. Okay, I was gonna say, when you were covered by the Bear Abomination, or Fake Stratagem, I was not entirely sure how much power you had, so I wasn't sure how many times we're gonna need to hit you. Okay, that does kind of stink. It will power you up. That might even make it worthwhile to hit you. Well, debatable. Hit you so that you're damaged. Obviously, no death blow, but at least sets up Junod. Otherwise, Junod is a very underwhelming 1 point of removal on a card that they are unlikely to try to move further. Yeah, but actually, if we use Primal Savagery here, then we don't have any target for Junod. So, yeah, I think in truth, that's the best way to go about doing it. Okay, Malena does set up more movement, though. We have a big lead here, but that does certainly make things a little more interesting. Okay, so I think, yes, they may still look to use Malena to move Friad Brigade. That's 2 additional points of value. Getting rid of the Doublethon Sentry, it has 1 higher base power. It's boosting you up, and it's going to boost you when you get moved, so that's really 1 more point of value to remove that, so I think that is technically still the best option for us. So let's do that, and then we'll use our last few leader ability charges here. Would have been another way to potentially get even more Bear Abominations on the board when we had Svalblod, but as I said, you know, we did lose him. But he held on long enough to still be a pretty big factor for us and give us a pretty huge lead here. So even with this Friad Brigade and some movement by Malena, power from the Cat Witcher, oh, and also they had that movement from their location as well, but still not enough for them to catch us. So we'll hold on for the win. Alright, so going up against Skellige here, and they'll go first. Okay, so we could lead off with something like Armor Up, or even the Bear Witcher Adept to give us targets for self-damage with things like the Quartermaster and Svalblod Priest. Don't think we need the Ravager here, we can probably do better. Gerd's not a terrible card for round 1, although we are kind of lacking some of the big stuff here. Primal Savagery, not amazing. Okay, well, we don't want to have Cerys in hand, obviously. We'll definitely need to mulligan her out in a future round. Okay, Longship will, of course, deal damage. We're kind of okay with that, in some cases at least, because we have a bunch of cards that are okay with taking damage. We could hit you with Armor Up. Obviously, you have that armor, so it's not great. Bear Witcher Adept will get damaged even more, but he can heal that off, so that's not a terrible option. So maybe we do that. Alright, Svalblod Totem. Yeah, this is looking like it could very well be a bit of a mirror match here. We probably going to see some very similar cards, so we don't really want to hit those, which means Armor Up could be a bit tricky to work in here. So, I mean, yeah, we could hit you, but that's also not great. We kind of like to get our engines out here as quickly as possible, so I suppose it might mean now is time for the Svalblod Priest. He will heal off the damage every turn, but still would have liked for this guy to have at least gotten to the point where he was going to start getting armor every turn. Alright, Gutting Slash is enough to destroy you. It's unfortunate. It's where I'm going to find it a bit tough in this round here, because we now have a bunch of stuff that we don't really love playing unless we can get this guy or other good damage recipients on the board, and that's really reliant upon getting armor up, and, I mean, I guess we could hit you. I suppose we could do that. And that means we could play Quartermaster, and we have some decent targets there now that these guys have armor. Okay, Disgraced Brawler. That's a card. Oh, right. I was about to say we'd actually like to hit, but they do have the Bloodthirst 3, so not so much anymore. So we can go Quartermaster, hit these guys. Otherwise, I mean, I was kind of assuming they were going to hit this Fanatic with the Totem, and then after they do that and convert this into an Abomination, suddenly Gerd becomes more of an option as well. I think we probably just go Quartermaster here, though. Tank the hit with the armor. Hit a couple of these guys. You'll continue healing. We're hoping we can get Gerd down here soon, and then we might finish with Arnvald to convert one of these 1-power students into a 6-power Bear Abomination. No pass. Okay, so we can definitely catch them in that case. Gerd, that might be sufficient. If not, it's awfully close. I mean, we aren't too concerned here. We could play as many as 2 cards and still be fine. So, yeah, I just wish that this was already flipped. I mean, I guess we can hit it and it still won't transform if we do it now. So, sure. Let's go that route. And after the healing on that Adept, we should now be fine. So we'll win round 1. Okay, so one of the things that did make round 1 tricky was that we had Cerys in hand, so let's get rid of her. Not a huge fan of the Savageries. If we get Svalblod out here, it's not a terrible way to finish off some enemies and get some more Bear Abominations on the board, so we could still make that work. Speaking of Bear Abominations, we'd kind of like to save at least 1 Fanatic in our deck for Artis. We did not get, unfortunately, but we do have a decent throwaway here, that being our location. Otherwise, I mean, we do have Oneiro, and we could get the Echoed Copy in the later round, and that'd be kind of okay as well. We have a lot of our good stuff hanging around in our deck, though. That is unfortunate. We would like to see Dagur, like to see Artis, and Svalblod. Sigvald wouldn't be bad either. So, stuck with a bunch of not-so-great things. Guess we'll go this route just so we get the location on the board carrying over. Go, I guess, Adept. And that's likely to be the only thing that we play here. Yeah, they'll go Brockbar Hunter. It's not a great card, in large part because we are not that afraid of taking damage, but we'll probably still just pass here. We, of course, could use leader ability charges. Would have had to have done it on our previous turn, but that way we can more quickly get to the Bear Abomination without having to do that negative value of the self-damage from Ursine Ritual, except that, assuming that we do get Svalblod out here, we actually like to have more of these charges available to us. So that was deliberate that we keep that. And they do still need to play 1 more card here, because we're currently tied. So their throwaway is a Svalblod Fanatic. Okay. This could get very interesting in round 3, because we will have some very similar cards, I imagine. But they'll win round 2. Alright, my biggest concern was that we did not draw into many of our big cards. We do get Artis here. That is big. We still have Oneiro. I'm thinking this is probably going to be to get Svalblod. Junod, not terrible, although when we have Svalblod on the board and Artis on the board, a lot of their cards are going to be small anyway, so Junod might not be a huge factor. Want to keep at least 1 Svalblod Fanatic in our deck for Artis. But let's try mulliganing out this armor up. Svalblod Priest is not great with Svalblod itself. I would mulligan this, except I'm concerned about getting our second Svalblod Fanatic in our hand here. So as much as I really want to get something like Dagur, I think we have to settle for what we have. Okay, it's Crow Messenger first. That's a bit of an oddity. I'll get the other one out. So we do want to get Artis out very early. We also want to get Svalblod out very early. The question we need to ask ourselves is there anything we need to get out first? Anything that does not synergize well with these guys that we actually don't want to take the self-damage on? The one exception would probably be that Svalblod Priest. He doesn't really benefit from taking the damage. He is mostly the one who is dealing additional damage to ourselves. So you could potentially make a case for leading off with him, but I guess he's a small enough card that that's maybe not a big enough concern. Tell you what, we really should go Svalblod first, because we don't want Svalblod taking a whole bunch of damage from Artis, because Svalblod has a lot of base power. So that would be painful, and we want Svalblod to last for a while. Now, the thing with Svalblod is you might think, well, you want to optimize that deployability, and it is tempting to do that, but that would require waiting a long time to play Svalblod. Honestly, I probably would prefer to put him next to our location there, because that is possibly the best card for us to heal. But we should be able to, once we get Artis on the board, do a lot with Svalblod. Now, we really don't want them to use something like Junod on him. Giga Scorpion Decoction. Also deal a whole lot of damage. So that is another reason why, in truth, I did not pay close enough attention and had intended to put him next to the location. So that's my bad. But we will go Artis now. So we do want to get him down early as well. And the Fanatic is our preferred target here. Now this will cause a whole bunch of damage, because he will immediately flip, and therefore you will activate Svalblod, and you will get another Svalblod Fanatic on the board. Out of curiosity, how close are we to Cerys? Not there yet. That is going to be our best way to heal up Svalblod, and I would very much like if we can make that happen soon. Okay, Gerd is going to hit Svalblod. I don't like that. Gerd takes a huge hit. which is nice. But we have a whole bunch of stuff now. Like, Savagery can create a Bear Abomination on any of these. That's awesome value. The problem is it destroys Svalblod. That's where I really want this heal, like, right now. So this is our best source of self-damage right now, in addition to what we already have on the board. So I think we might need to go Svalblod Priest, and then we would perhaps want to put it there under normal circumstances, but we have to heal up Svalblod first. We need to get Cerys out as quickly as possible, unless you say Svalblod's going down on our next turn no matter what, in which case we go Vildkaarl and just get the point slam right off the bat. I'm going to be a little bit ambitious here, though. So that's why we don't love playing the Svalblod Priest after we have Artis on the board, because he does take a pretty significant chunk of damage, or at least he doesn't have a lot of power to begin with, so he's pretty vulnerable when we first do that. And we now need 3 more self-damage before Cerys shows up, and we could potentially make that happen with our leader ability on our next turn. So basically, if Svalblod lives here, which of course they play Brothfire Hunter and are going to immediately destroy him, or they go after Artis instead. Okay. I think we can make this work. We can probably make it happen on this turn. We just need to make sure that we don't immediately activate Svalblod. Yes, it's going to be a little suboptimal with the leader ability charges here, but I think we can still make this work. So I'm going to hit you a few times. And this should get Cerys out now. Cerys should have Zeal. We're going to heal you, and then we're going to damage probably the Deafening Siren just for the overkill on you. Under other circumstances, we could be more precise and set it up such that that Fanatic will perfectly activate here, but now we can do things like this. Which is much more along the lines of what we're looking for. Okay, there's Vildkaarl, who does benefit from... Oh, we got rid of Artis. Okay, yep, that was another reason why technically playing Vildkaarl earlier would have been helpful, but we prioritized Svalblod over Artis, basically, when we made the board blow up a little bit. But we might still have, with Cerys on the board, some ability to set up Vildkaarl here, or we put Vildkaarl right next to Svalblod Priest. That's not a bad option. Cerys is very close to going down, is the other thing that we need to be mindful of, so we might, for that reason, want to be a little careful and not go straight into Fanatic or Arnvald and create another Bear Abomination immediately. So let's go here first. In fact, we could even heal Svalblod, damage you, or heal damage, and that gives us another way to more quickly get you to evolve. So there we go. Technically, if you're feeling really risky, we could have waited one more turn, because now Arnaghad has his ability active here. I'm not sure you wanted to do that. It will destroy Cerys, which is unfortunate. But it does also cause a lot of chaos here. Okay, so now we do have a lot of damage cards, so suddenly, yes, Arnaghad does get a lot of armor. No Sucrus in this deck, but because we have so much ability to damage a whole bunch of cards, Arnaghad should get a ton of armor, so that's the theory there. So we probably do play... I mean, technically, he... for that reason, can survive usually 1 or 2 hits, but, you know, not quite as much as you'd get from combining him with Sucrus. So we could actually delay a little bit if we wanted to, and might even get a little more armor if we do that. So we could deliberately throw down a Svalblod Fanatic, perhaps even in this range row. But what if we transform this Kraken into a Bear Abomination and totally mess with their Kraken strat? Now, technically, that is going to blow up more cards on our side than their side, so tell you what, we'll wait. We will go Arnaghad now. Put him next to the location so he can get healed. And so 8 armor, 7 power, so we should be able to tank a hit, although that's unfortunate, because that was a good workaround on their part. We don't really want to blow up the board once, otherwise Vildkaarl gets transformed, so if anything, we'd like to probably Junod here, and just remove you altogether. That way we can avoid having you get much stronger. So let's do that now, I think. And now, again, we'd like for them to have more units on the board before we start more Svalblod explosions, but we are theoretically capable of doing some of that. And in fact, it's probably even worth eating this Bear Abomination with Champion of Svalblod there. And we don't really want to do it with Kraken, because we would like to transform that so it doesn't get destroyed and come over on their side. So why don't we do that now, I think. And we might also choose to heal Arnaghad. This is what? Heal for 2, and it's not going to be a huge factor, so Arnaghad's probably going down on our next turn. But let's do this. This will activate Svalblod, which will deal some extra damage to us. But I think we can live with that. Transform you, get the explosion, get the other Fanatic out, and potentially wait a turn, see if we can... I mean, we could, with the leader ability charge, make you transform if we really wanted to, but we might save that for transforming some future fanatics. Oh, I meant to do this. Okay, so be it. That would have been definitely the best way to use our location order, and it would have been enough to have Arnaghad survive there. It does get rid of one of their engines, though, so still half decent value, but not perfectly optimized in that way. So now, let's go probably Fanatic. We'll go probably a couple of leader ability charges there. That will set off Svalblod. And a whole lot of Svalblods at that. So we can now heal. Still definitely ways to get value out of that. It's just, you know, would have been a little bit better on Arnaghad. So now we can definitely heal here as well. And should it be Svalblod? Debatable. We have the Primal Savagery target on Morkvarg there, but maybe we keep our options open and instead do that. So we're destroying a card that is 1 point higher, but now if we really want the board to explode again, we could. Not that we need to, because we have a pretty huge lead here. So we just don't even need to play this last card, because we've already won. Alright, so going up against Syndicate here, and we'll go first. Alright, so we have Svalblod and Arnaghad are cards we'd like to save for round 3, ideally. That means round 1, we're probably looking at Gerd and some of our bronze engines here. Not a huge fan of the Ravager, though. Let's dump that. Primal Savagery. Decent complement to Svalblod and really Artis once we get him. Oh, also Vildkaarl, probably a card we want to save for Svalblod. I'm really looking for a Priest here, though, in all likelihood. Artis. Okay, we have amazing hand for round 3. Usually I like to save all these big guys, though. So I'm still not loving that. Okay, and Fanatic is also a card we kind of like to save for round 3. So, amazing hand for round 3, no question. But we don't necessarily want to use all these cards right now in round 1. So, we'll see how that all plays out. Let's start with the Adept to give it some time to heal up here. Okay, Tunnel Drill obviously is damage on a card that heals. Granted, we would have preferred to be the ones doing the damage, not them. So maybe we hold off on the Quartermaster, but we might get our other Adept out here, because that's the other engine that we're trying to get down as quickly as possible. Again, Svalblod Priest would have been the key card, I think, here that we are missing that I would like to have seen, because that's a solid bronze engine for us. Works well when we have cards like this that we're okay with taking the damage. Okay, it's Fizz Tech for poison on it. Okay, sure. It does also improve the cooldown. Okay, I suppose they didn't need it, technically speaking. I mean, if you are about to destroy this with poison, then all the more reason to just go after it with self-damage. So, would have preferred to have waited around a little bit before using the Quartermaster on this guy, perhaps giving you a chance to start armoring up, but we can still go for this if we'd like to, and worst comes to worst, you know, if you don't get poisoned, it means you have time to heal back up. Okay, well, it is going to be poison removal, sure. And would have liked if they played a few more units here, so we could have set up a better Gerd plus, I guess, Primal Savagery combo. We do it melee row, we could destroy you with the Primal Savagery, otherwise we just go after the Deafening Siren that we create. So otherwise, it's just not great here, because again, we're just lacking the engines that we want to see in round 1. I mean, unless, of course, you could just choose to get super aggressive here and break out some of the stuff that we would have normally liked to have saved for round 3. If we were going to go that route, though, we probably would have wanted to have done it earlier. So I'm basically accepting the fact that we are not going to be playing very aggressively in this round. Might even flip this, just in case. There's a non-zero chance that might be our last turn, although certainly could be Primal Savagery on you. Okay, Confession Extractor. Sure. Alright, I think we go Primal Savagery on this guy, and then we see if we can call it around at that point. Yes, Arnaghad is now on Adrenaline, but this is not a great opportunity to play him, because there's only one damaged card on the board, which is why combining him with stuff like Artis and Svalblod is usually preferable. So yeah, we're now at the point where we really don't want to be playing the cards we have left, unless we could drop one of these two and use some leader ability charges to transform them. But they'll pass now. Okay. So that's good. Good timing, right where we wanted that round to end, and we won round 1 without having to commit any of our really big cards here. Okay, and Arnvald can work well with Artis and Svalblod, so that's not bad. However, we don't want to see 2 Svalblod Fanatics in our hand when we have yet to play Artis, because that is our preferred target for Artis to summon out, so let's do that. Definitely don't want to see Cerys either. She's down to 4, so we got her closer to getting summoned out, but she didn't come out in round 1, which is good, because we definitely want her for round 3 as well. And we conveniently drew into our location, which is definitely what we'd like to use as our throwaway card here in round 2, because we have 1 card to burn. So let's use this. And with it, shouldn't matter too much what we go for here. I mean, technically speaking, Bear Witcher Adept probably gets us 1 charge closer on Cerys, right? So that might be preferable. And you could technically use some leader ability charges there. That would get Cerys closer to coming out. It'd also mean we have a little bit less of the negative value from our leader ability before we get that Bear Abomination to spawn in. But that self-damage is actually pretty useful in round 3 to convert some of the Svalblod Fanatics that Svalblod creates into Bear Abominations. Yeah, they'll go Tax Collector, which is decent in a long round, yes, but that is not good enough tempo-wise. I mean, they do have another throwaway card here, but yes, we're going to pass. So that means we still have the healing from our location carrying over into round 3. Okay, Vigilantes. There they are. Blood money. So theoretically, we are likely to see more bounty in the near future. But they'll win round 2. Okay, and drawing into Dagur here is huge, because when combined with things like Svalblod and Artis, he can get humongous boosts. Once again, we drew into our second Svalblod Fanatic, though. We don't want that, because we want to get that out with Artis. So let's get rid of you. And although I'd like to maybe swap you out, or maybe even you out, would have loved you in round 1, but you're not as great when combined with Artis, we don't want to risk accidentally drawing into Cerys. I mean, she's a good enough card that we could still play her from hand, and it wouldn't be a bad thing, but we'll play it a little bit safe here. Yeah, they're going to go Vigilantes. We're both going to be damage decks, it seems. The thing is that we benefit from receiving damage in many cases, whereas they probably will not. So we would like to get rid of that guy pretty soon, but we want to start off early with things like Svalblod and Artis. Usually you want to play Svalblod before you play Artis, because at 10 base power, Svalblod takes a pretty big hit if you already have Artis on the board, and although Svalblod will do a whole bunch of damage to other cards, we want him to stay pretty healthy. So that's probably the first turn play here, unless we had anything else that we really want to play before that, like sneaking in a Dagur might not be a terrible idea as long as he can survive 1 turn. And maybe they have not quite done the setup they'd like to, although Vigilantes alone, plus, with leader ability, yeah, they can immediately answer Dagur if they want to. I think we will go Svalblod first. And they will forfeit. Because maybe they realized our deck countered theirs. So there's a look at a Skellige Crimson Curse Way of the Witcher hybrid deck that I've been using to complete Summer Cycle quests. If you like the video, then make sure to hit the like and subscribe button, and leave a comment down below letting me know which other cards, archetypes, and factions we should experiment with next. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you next time.